Thank you.
ID approved.
Uber.
They have to change that. I realize they're advertising that these shares in my house.
What's the problem? It's in your house.
So what are you doing here?
Okay, what I wanted to speak about this week, it's a concept some people might ask, my kamashmalan, what's the chiddush? But still, it's a good thing to know. It's an important thing to speak about, which is, how does the concept of achakale b'chol yom she'yove, waiting for Moshiach every day, how does it manifest itself in halacha l'maisa? Halacha b'poel mamish.
How many people have today?
So, davening, that is obvious, and davening and benching, kiddush levanim, every tefillah just about that there is a connection with Moshiach, which is very important itself. It shows you that it's not just words you're supposed to say, but when you daven, it's supposed to be b'kosh yisrach. If you're davening, because you're asking the Eibishter for what you need, so a Jew is supposed to feel this is what he needs.
Without Moshiach.
Huh?
Without Moshiach.
Yeah. But there's also, where does it express itself in halacha? There's certain things that we do or we don't do, certain things that Chachamim instituted because of Mashiach's arrival. So, the truth is that there are a few examples. Again, it's very important to emphasize that the idea of awaiting Mashiach's arrival is not limited to 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 examples in halacha where different things were done or not done because of it, but obviously waiting Mashiach's arrival is something that's the essence of a yid. That's what that's his most inner hope, and that's supposed to permeate his whole doing Torah mitzvahs, try to get himself ready for Mashiach. That, you know, as the Rebbe explains, the culmination, the shleimus of Yid's Torah mitzvahs will be when Mashiach will come. Nevertheless, the Rebbe explains the famous sikh and Kotei Sichas Chelach of Beis Pashas Hazriya Mitzayra, that in the connection between the Yid's avodah with the ultimate perfection of his avodah and the coming of Mashiach, there's different stages. Not necessarily right in the beginning, generations ago, was it so felt in the Yid's avodah that his avodah is leading up to Mashiach. The Rebbe speaks Hazriyam. It's a whole thing, interesting thing. You can look over there. The Rebbe explains 3 different stages. A few other places the Rebbe speaks about it. The Rebbe explains as we get closer to Mashiach, the more it's felt within our avodah, how it's not just something which is a preparation for Mashiach, and we know in the back of our heads that eventually Mashiach will come, but that our avodah leads right into Mashiach. So, you're not going to open up, you're not necessarily going to see in every other halacha how years ago, to some, there's certain people that have zechikach to Mashiach, certain tzaddikim that spent their whole lives, there's books about them, stories about them. Then, you can't say from every regular Jew is necessarily demanded that every time he learns and he does a mitzvah, should be thinking about Mashiach. But as time went on, we got closer to Mashiach, that became much more and more on the front burner. But it's important to see how already in going back years ago, certain things in halacha that clearly emphasize because Mashiach will come. There's different examples. First of all, there's another thing which is related but not exactly the same thing, which is there's the concept of Zeichel L'Churban. Zeichel L'Churban is a bit of a different concept where halacha requires us to limit our certain things to remember the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. It's, in a certain sense, it's nothing really to do with, nothing, it's not connected with awaiting Mashiach's arrival. It's a little bit on the other flip side of the coin. Not to forget the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. There's a whole simon in Shulchan Aruch, I think it's Tavkuf Samach, around there. There's a number of halachas, I don't want to get into it because half of them are whatever. I mean, there's a famous halacha of leaving one part in the house, a amma al amma, one amma by a amma, that's not painted or across the opening. Some people don't have that problem because the whole house is a zeichel l'churban. But the nice thing with Divrei Chaim is,
Talking about my house again.
The nice about the Divrei Chaim, I think that there was it a Paul Lichtenstein? I forget exactly who it was. That he walked into his house and Divrei Chaim was known as. And he made like a statement like he's not fulfilling the Shulchan Aruch. Like he told him that I don't see in your house a zeichel l'churban. So he right away went and he scraped off some whatever it was. And it's a halacha. It's discussed by poskim I don't want to get into it. They could go into a whole shir and who's required, is not required, and so on and so forth. But these are things that, for example, the fact that we break the glass by a chuppah. There are other things. There's limits on music that were made in halacha. Which again, there's different opinions and all that. Various halachas, which are all the idea of not to fully enjoy life, so to say, until Moshiach comes. So, but that is not so much focusing on how.
It's more zeichel.
Right, not so much focusing so much on Mashiach. It's more zeichel l'churban. Now, what things are focusing on Mashiach? So, first of all, I once gave, a few months ago, I gave a shir about buying real estate. It was man hagolus, that a person shouldn't buy real estate with the intention that this is it. I'm going to live here this is where my place of permanent dwelling, where me and my generations are going to stay. So let me expand and invest in real estate and setting up things to discuss. A number of across the board, the Chassam Sefer, Reb Shlomo Kluger, all across the board.
Chutzlaretz dafke.
Afkan Chutz, Eretz Yisrael is Adrab, Eretz Yisrael, but in the Chutzlaretz he says, build what you need, but you should make a whole. Shalah writes very sure. A number of the big guns. They write very strong words. Again, you had was the mention is one. Bnei Yisachar, he writes, since all the Jewish houses will go to Eretz Yisrael. I don't want to get into it. Halacha l'maisa, it's obligation. The Hitler, just saying, but I'm more focusing on how in halacha itself, so to say, not necessarily in halacha, but in how a Jew is supposed to conduct himself in this particular aspect of showing that his permanent dwelling is not golus, is reflected in the concept about not person shouldn't. It's based on the Gemara Avodah Zarah, that after 400 years of the Churban, if a person will tell you, I'll give you a field that's worth 1,000 zuz for one zuz, don't take it. Whatever, fine. However, there is an expression, this in halacha, which is, Rebbe spoke in the Sicha, Nachrin Shal Pesach, Tavshin Chav Beis, it's interesting halacha that in the laws of mezuzah, someone buys a house, or rents a house in Eretz Yisrael, he has to put a mezuzah right away. However, if you rent the house in Chutz Laretz, you have to wait 30 days. What we do is we put on the mezuzah 30 for the beginning, then we take one off and we change, whatever it is. It's the whole thing how you try to make it get bracha done. I'll speak to you of how to do it. I don't want to get involved in it, but from the letter of the law, there's a concept that the first 30 days you don't have to put a mezuzah. It's not. It's not. I think if you're renting the house.
You can't make a bracha.
Huh?
You can't even make a bracha.
Yeah. The question is no. So I think what we do is we put it on, but we don't make a bracha. Then we check it, and either we put a better one. At least we check one, and then we put that one with the bracha. We have in mind the other ones.
Change it.
So the Rebbe asks a question. We find, let's say in the beginning of Hilchas Pesach, there's a discussion halacha regarding Mois Chitim. Mois Chitim is money collected for the people of the city, for the poor of the city for Pesach, and there's laws in halacha about who has to give, who could get, and how long he has to be living in the city. So if someone is in the city for 30 days, he's considered from the members of the city. But if he's not yet in the city for 30 days, he's not considered one of the members of the city. However, if he plans to stay there permanently, halacha considers him right away as one of the members of the city. So the Rebbe asks, somebody's renting a house, he's planning to stay here permanently. If we would go based on the idea that's mentioned in laws of Moed Chitim, the same thing should apply to the law of mezuzah. Why do we say that the first 30 days that he's renting a house doesn't have to put a mezuzah? If he doesn't know how long he's going to be the chveis, if he finds a better deal, he's going to move out right away. I understand. But if he's supposed to stay there, if he's intending to stay there, why doesn't he have to put a mezuzah? So the Rebbe says here you see in halacha, there's a discussion. Look in the end of Simrish Peivav, there's Nachla Sidim, the Shach, whatever. It's not fully clear, but the way the Rebbe learns Pshat is that Api Halacha, here we see how the concept of waiting for Mashiach arrival affects Halacha. A Jew in Chutz Laretz, this is not his place. So until 30 days pass, even though he's planning on staying there, but there's still, by default, there's a lack of kviyas. By default, Halacha says, you have to prove that this is your place of dwelling. So if you're only renting it, forget exactly the details, renting, buying, whatever, if you're only renting it, it's not yet 30 days, so Taka, you're planning on staying there, but by default, the Jew's place is not Chutz Laretz, his place is Eretz Yisrael. So he has to wait, to be obligated to put a mezuzah on, the bracha, whatever it is. Another thing, which is not halacha, but it is a svara that's brought down in Poskim, the early Poskim, there's a halacha that you're not allowed to take an oath. There's a dispute regarding money, whatever things, right? There's halachas and the laws of taking an oath. It's full of it in Choshen Mishpat and other places. Now you look in the earlier shilas at Shuvas from years ago, going back 4 or 5. What was the bulk of the shilas? How are you supposed to put on film? The bulk of the shilas was monetary disputes. You'll see, it's all laws of Ksuba, Choshen Mishpat. You know, later on, you're not going to see so much a whole question about a klarish and a klisheni, things like that. It's interesting. Years back, this was the bread and butter of halacha was monetary disputes. Anyway, so you have a cheshvus. You have the laws of taking an oath on monetary disputes. So you have a halacha. The reinish poin ala karkois. If you have a dispute over land, this guy says this property belongs to me, this guy says it belongs to me, don't take an oath for it. There's different types of an oath, the Shvuas HaTorah, the more severe oath, and the Shvuas HaSes. I don't know all the details. But the halacha, but what's interesting is the Goinim write, there was an opinion that held that in Chutz La'aretz, you do take an oath even if you have a dispute on land. Why? Because it's written very short, very concise, but the idea seems to be because this is not going to be your permanent property anyway, so it's not really considered like real estate. It's considered your property, your real estate is considered like metalton. You're going to sell it when Moshiach comes. So it's going to turn into money, so it's not really considered mamash karka. El halacha, you don't pass like this, but it's an interesting thing how, I guess there were people at some point that some goyim that follow this way of looking at it, that in Chutz La'aretz, land is not considered really that it belongs to. Just mentioned, that Rebbe mentioned, I spoke about this in another shit, that Rebbe was mechadish, that even all the Yid's territory, not only his house, Rebbe said even his karka could go with him to Chutz La'aretz Yisrael, but fine. Now, this is, more importantly, in the actual Gemara itself, we have a number of things which the Gemara itself says that the Chachamim instituted what the Gemara called because of Mehera Yibana HaMikdash. What does Mehera Yibana HaMikdash means? We're take it in consideration that Mashiach will come and things will change than the way they are now. So therefore, even though from the standpoint of halacha we could conduct ourselves a certain way right now in Galos, but in order that when Mashiach comes we shouldn't make it, in other words, when Mashiach comes some halachas will change. So we already now in the time of Galos have to conduct ourselves a certain way so that when Mashiach comes the person shouldn't say, hey, last year I did this and this, why can't I do it again this year? He's not going to realize now that Mashiach came, things changed. So what are the examples? So there's a few examples, there's a number of examples. You can look, there's Rabbi Galitsky in his Sefer Moshe Mashiach Ba'alach in the second volume, the first simon, he collects a few interesting examples. Not so many, but there are a few of them that are very important. One example is a famous halacha regarding, the truth is, a lot of these things, the halacha is this,
it's a very complicated concept.
yeah, they're very complicated concepts. Some of these cases, the halacha is the same. The halacha is going to be the same, but not necessarily because of this reasoning. The reasoning, but it's still a reasoning that the Gemara brings. Whatever. One example, one famous example, the famous Gemara, which is referenced many times for another reason, but we have a law, now we're Sfira Summer coming after Pesach, we have a prohibition of eating chadash. What's chadash? The new wheat that grew after was
this year, in other words.
in other words, the wheat that was not sown in the ground before Pesach was sown in the ground after Pesach. So when it grows, so technically you can't eat it until, in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, you couldn't eat it until you brought the Korban Noima, which is the second day Pesach. Now I don't want to get into yeah. Now I don't want to get into Chadash or Chutz La'aretz. There's different opinions. There's a few major kulas that a lot of people rely on. It only applies to Eretz Yisrael, the surrounding countries. It only applies if the wheat belongs to a Yid. I don't want to get into it, and there's a lot written up about it. And some people are very careful, some people are not careful, and but the point is that I wanted to say is that the halach is that in Eretz Yisrael, let's say, wherever, you have to be careful about Chadash, that's for sure. So when can't you, during the time of the Beis HaMikdash, when they brought the Korban Omer, you were allowed to eat Chadash from that point on. Not the second day of Pesach, they brought the Korban Omer, you're allowed to eat the new wheat. Now, how did people know when they brought the Korban Omer in the Beis HaMikdash? They didn't have cell phones or WhatsApp in those days to right away to have a live feed when it was brought. So the place in Yerushalayim, right near the Beis HaMikdash, I guess they could know right away when it was brought. But outside of Yerushalayim, once midday passed, they ate the new wheat because it was for sure that they wouldn't kratz in the Beis HaMikdash. They knew for sure that the way things worked there, they brought the carbon omer before Chatzos. Now, once the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, the question arose: when could you start eating the new wheat? So there's two opinions here. One opinion is, which this is really what Halacha follows, is that you have to wait until the next day. In other words, now that the Beis HaMikdash, now that we didn't bring a carbon omer, so that you brought the carbon omer into Zionism, the second day of Pesach. So you have to wait for the whole day to pass. Then you could eat Chodesh. Then you could eat the new wheat. Now it's Chutz, you might have to add a day because of sake of the Yom. Fine. But the Gemara brings another opinion, which is that really, from the letter of the law, in other words, Menatayda, biblically, you could start eating Omer right when it becomes light. When the second day of you don't have to wait for the second day of Pesach to pass. In the morning of the second day of Pesach, you could eat the new wheat. But Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai instituted that you should not eat the new wheat the second day of Pesach. Why? This is very interesting and very important. He says like this: if the Beis HaMikdash is not built until the second day of Pesach, a few days after it gets light, there would be nothing to worry about. Because once it got light and there was no Beis HaMikdash, you're allowed to eat the carbon omer right there and then. The fact that the Beis HaMikdash was built afterwards does not retroactively prohibit you from eating the new wheat. So you're allowed to eat the new wheat. Now, if the Beis HaMikdash is built a day before, let's say, and again, there's no problem because it's built the day before. They probably got everything set up in place. And the time it comes, the second day of Pesach, by midday, at least by midday, everyone should be able to eat it because you could be sure that midday they brought it. What are we afraid? But what are we taking into consideration? That it could be that the Beis HaMikdash will be built towards the end of the first day of Pesach. Or if it will be built by nighttime, which is, in other words, the night between the first day of Pesach, second day of Pesach. What's going to happen is, it's going to be a big, you could imagine, be a big rush, and everything will have to start from scratch. So what's going to happen is that in such a type of setting, the carbon omer won't be brought until after midday. So because of the chance that the Beis HaMikdash will be built like towards the end of the 15th or the night of the 16th, that's why he says that you can't eat the carbon omer the whole 16th.
You can't eat flour.
I'm sorry, making sense. You can't eat the new wheat until the end of the 16th. Now, that is what the Gemara says. Over here you have the famous thing. This is where the famous thing comes in. The question is, how could you build a Beis HaMikdash by night? How could you build a Beis HaMikdash the 15th of Nisan, which is a Yom Tov? So you have the famous Rashi Tosfos, HaMikdash will come down from heaven. But it's regarding this halacha. So now, it's a very powerful halacha. The Igros Moshe has a very interesting twist on this. It's in I think it's Moshe Chel Ches, I think it's Siman Hey. He says like this. He says it's a big. If you look at in the criteria of halacha, you would call it the chashash rochik. You would call it, you're taking into account a very far-fetched scenario that is going to Beis HaMikdash will dafka be built not 15th in the morning, not 16th in the morning, not 16th in the morning, a little after the came light, but dafka at this time. So he says the interesting thing. He says you can take it or leave it. I mean, what he's saying is true in Indian, but I'm saying the proof from this halacha is you can take it or leave it. He says from here is the raya that the proof from Moshiach has to be kein vaday. You have to anticipate that maybe Mashiach will come. Your anticipation has to be for sure Mashiach is coming. That is why even a slight chance, not a slight chance, when it comes the first day of Pesach, whatever, the second day of Pesach, in a person's mind, Mashiach is not here by this time. It should be it has to be. That it's definitely going to be built tonight. It's definitely going to come towards Shki. It has to be. It shouldn't be just a far-fetched thing. It's, in other words, you can only consider a slight chance if you say, no, it could happen like this. If it has to be that every second you have to wait Mashiach to come right now, so if Beis HaMikdash is not built the 15th in the morning, so you have to expect that that's what's going to happen. It's going to stop. He uses an interesting thing. He says, if not for the fact that you have to wait Mashiach's coming, mamish like he's coming today, to say that you have to be worried about such a, far-fetched chance, it wouldn't seem halachically a good enough reason. Now, one second. Two things. I would say two things. First of all, there are people that question him because they say we do find other types of cases where the Chachamim made gezedas because of far-fetched situations. That's first of all. Second of all, there's another twist here, which I mentioned a few weeks ago, if you remember, that when is the third Beis HaMikdash going to be built? So, because the month of Nisan is the time to build in Beis HaMikdash, so there are people that say, forget it, I think it was on Yom Tov of Pesach, the Beis HaMikdash will be built. Yudal and Nisan will be the destruction of Amalek, and afterwards will come the Bina Beis HaMikdash, I think the 15th. So, it's not pshat, it's a chashash rochik, a far-fetched case. This is the time the Beis HaMikdash will be built, or could be will be built a few hours.
That's the reason.
In other words, if you think about it, it's not stam. In other words, we're talking about a date in the year which is the most opportune time for the Beis HaMikdash to be built. So you have to take into consideration any chance. Maybe we'll build a little bit later. There's a number of discussions on the sugya which I don't want to get into, but fine. So that is one of the classical examples. And now over here, there's a small nuance here, but it's important thing to mention. What's Taich Meheda Yibana HaMikdash? The Mother says that we take into consideration Meheda Yibana HaMikdash. Beis HaMikdash will be built Meheda. What does it mean Meheda? L'chayra pshat is way understand. Meheda Yibana HaMikdash means that a Yid's anticipation. This goes back to what I discussed once in the past. A Yid's anticipation for Mashiach has to be the Mashiach is coming now. It's not just something that the Rebbe was mechadash. We want Mashiach now. We say Shibana Yisrael Meheda V'Yameinu. What you have in Dani Mamins, we don't have it. There's a caveat they found from an earlier version of the Imam says, Ani Mamin b'munish b'yasa Mashiach b'meheda. A Yid has to believe. The definition of belief in Mashiach is not that I believe the Mashiach will come at some point. The definition of belief in Mashiach is that Yid has to want and anticipate and really believe it's going to happen soon, quickly. So, so Pshat Meheda Yibana HaMikdash, I guess, means that we have to anticipate that it's going to happen within our time, Meheda. I think there's some people that add here extra twists, even though you only think it fits into this particular case that I mentioned. Meheda Yibana HaMikdash means Beis HaMikdash will be built very quickly, very suddenly. Meheda Yibana HaMikdash not necessarily mean that Beis HaMikdash will come now in our time, but that the actual building the Beis HaMikdash will be done in a very quick way, and we're not going to be ready, and therefore we're going to have this issue of having to bring the carbon after midday, whatever. Now, the truth is other halachas as well, a few other examples. Yeah, the Gemara discusses regarding today, there's a mitzvah. The mitzvah is that Meiser Behema, that a person has to, every 10th animal, he has to bring a carbon. Bizman hazeh, we don't separate, people that have animals don't separate the 10th animal to be brought as a carbon. The Gemara asks why. So the problem really is, since there's no Beis HaMikdash, you're going to bring it as a carbon, it's going to be, if you're going to set it aside as a carbon, you're going to run into problems. You're going to start you might use the animal, you might shear its wool, you might have benefit from a carbon. So the Chacham decided, you know what, we're telling you not to make it a carbon. So now it's a very extreme thing. The Chacham are basically telling you, so to say, to not to do what the Torah tells you to do. I mean, you can't bring the carbon till there's a Beis HaMikdash, but still. So the Gemara thinks of a hypothetical case. Gemara in Bechayre says, why don't you take all your whole group of animals and make them bali mumen, make them all to have a blemish, they won't be able to be brought as a carbon anyway, and then count them for Meiser. So you fulfill the mitzvah of Meiser. You won't have a problem that you might use an animal that's holy, because since the animal has a mum, so you can't bring it as a carbon, but the animal is still considered Meiser for the laws of Meiser. So like this, it's a loophole to avoid the issue. From one hand, you'll make your animal Meiser, you'll designate it as a carbon Meiser. On the other hand, it won't be a problem, they'll actually become holy. So the Gemara says we're afraid, we suspect, Meheda Yibana HaMikdash will be built quickly on what? You want to have animals, kosher animals to be bought for karbonos, because everyone in Eretz Yisrael is going to be making all their animals to have blemish. So there won't be any animals for karbonos.
But the reverse of it also is, the Gemara Makis, we learned in one Makis, where the Gemara says that one of us talks over the why B'chedes, why you learn from Ma'aseh Sheni from Chedes, the one says like this, that the Chash is, the case of the B'chedes is that to be makir the carbon B'chedes, to be dam and the Mizbeach of the Bechir. And in the middle of the Bechir Beis Hamikdash, the question will happen with the Bechir's Basar. Which means that the Gemara says, a Bechir's Basar is a limited time how much you can eat it. You have to be after it's not if it's Liyem Relayla, and after you can eat it. So the Gemara is Cheshish, the Gemara is on the Cheshish that you can be Zikas Damim, Churban Beis Hamikdash, and the question is, could you eat now the Basar, because could you need the Beis Hamikdash for Chilus Basar or not? Because the Churban Beis Hamikdash could also be very quickly. Ben Laila Churban, and you was ready to time you were, and you didn't have enough time to eat the Basar, and it has to be within a limited time that you can eat Basar of a carbon.
Talking about the biggest measure, something far-fetched.
Yeah.
Other people asking. I just mentioned. It's interesting that he said it. And the truth is, there's a number of other examples. There's a whole other thing, which is the main thing is really there's about Kohanim drinking wine. There's manas and naziras, which I have to discuss separately. Anyway, if anyone wants to look, there's one sefer that I found. I was looking. One sefer is called Malin Bakodesh. Anyone that has Yitzhak Chochma, whatever, a database. A sefer Malin Bakodesh, Chelach Chav Zayin. He put together very nicely. Not everything that I mentioned, but a lot of the different things about where you see in Halacha how the tzipiyah, the geula affects. He brings different cases made of Yibana, and that doesn't make everything. It gets a little complicated in this other sugya, which needs to be discussed separately. But anyway, this is where you see in Halacha how the idea of Mashiach's arrival plays a role. There's a few other places in Gemara as well. Now, not every case we pass on. Even Poskim also mention other things. The idea is that we want that there's two parts of the halacha. First of all, it's the imminence, how it could happen quickly, and how a Jew has to expect it to happen. The second thing is also it shows on the preparation level we have to have for Mashiach. That because the Chachamim were afraid that when Mashiach comes, a Jew is going to make a mistake, so already in the time of Galus, they instituted certain things in a certain way halacha has to run. In order they should be prepared when Mashiach comes, they should follow halacha properly. But that's a second nikud. It's not just about anticipating Mashiach, but it's about preparing your life, Pashat Begashmis. And finishing off talking regarding the Karbonos and Karban Pesach, talking about there won't be animals. So in the Yechidus, with the chief rabbis, Tavshim and Tes, the rabbi spoke about the Karban Pesach.
Friday.
If the Beis Hamikdash will be built, so where are they going to get animals for Karbonos? There's many questions we can have Kohanim that are what I don't want to get into the whole thing. But the Rebbe says, the Rebbe is a famous Medrash, Eliyahu Hanavi brings Karbonos, Karban Talmud every day. So he has animals set aside that if Mashiach comes right away, we'll be able to use.
Before, they were speaking about it coming before. Rav Shapir asks the Rebbe when, but he makes a mistake with it, that Shabbos not being Shabbos.
I don't know, I didn't look in them. And it is a sign.
Gula mitzvah shlema.
Yeah,